This is LIbreQuest. My name is Matt. It is the 14th of October, 2019. The first article today from the hackernews.com, sudo flaw lets Linux users run commands as root even when they're restricted. This was posted on the 14th of October, written by Mohit Kumar. Attention Linux users, vulnerability has been discovered in sudo, one of the most important, powerful, and commonly used utilities that comes as a core command installed on almost, every Unix and Linux-based operating system. The vulnerability in question is a sudo security policy bypass issue that could allow a malicious user to program to execute arbitrary commands as root on a targeted Linux system, even when the sudoers configuration explicitly disallows the root access. Sudo stands for superuser do and is a system command that allows a user to run applications or commands with the privileges of a different user without switching environments. So that's good information to know. However, it does not affect versions. Let's see. This says this vulnerability affects all sudo versions prior to the latest release, version 1.8.28. So make sure you are updating your systems. The next article is from the Wall Street Journal. This was posted on the 11th of October. This article written by Nina Trentman. The title, Red Hat CFO loses out on retention bonus following standards-related ouster. Red Hat Inc.'s finance chief, Eric Shander, has been dismissed from the company, forfeiting a $4 million retention award that was agreed to ahead of Red Hat's acquisition by International Business Machines Corp. The Raleigh, North Carolina-based software company confirmed late Thursday that Mr. Shander was no longer working at Red Hat. Eric was dismissed without pay in connection with Red Hat's workplace standards, a company spokeswoman said in a statement. So I'm not going to bother reading the rest of this article. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more information that comes out on that later. That's over at the Wall Street Journal. Red Hat CFO loses out on retention bonus following standards-related ouster. And the last article. This was posted by Jason Evangelho. Over on Forbes.com, System 76 will begin shipping 2 Linux laptops with Core Boot-based open-source firmware. System 76, the Denver-based Linux PC manufacturer and developer of Pop! OS, has some stellar news for those of us who prefer our laptops a little more open. Later this month, the company will begin shipping 2 of their laptop models with its Core Boot-powered open-source firmware. Beginning today, System 76 will start taking pre-orders from both Galago Pro and Darter Pro laptops. The systems will ship out later in October and include the company's Core Boot-based open-source firmware, which was previously teased in the 2019 Open Source Firmware Conference. So that's exciting news. So this episode today is being streamed on... I think it's being streamed. I don't know. It says live. But this episode today is being streamed, I think, over on YouTube. And this podcast is available at archive.org, LibreQuest.org, and the video version over on YouTube. So today I wanted to talk about rescuing a PC. So I was at a restaurant the other day. I'm checking the stream here. I'm not sure. I've never tried the live stream option before. Well, it says stop streaming. Apparently I am streaming. I'm not really sure. And typically when I do this, I don't usually have a lot of time to actually do the podcast, so I thought I would try the live stream option today. But typically what I do is I come in here and I open up OBS and I'll start just going through the, what I have planned for the day, a topic to talk about and some news. But I've never actually done the live stream option, so I'm not sure if it's even working. I have no idea. I'm not really sure. Either way, I'm going to move on now. So basically what I wanted to talk about today was rescuing a PC. I was at a restaurant, and I don't know if you have this issue as well. I know some people do. When you see an old system and you think, you want to know what's going on with that system because you have a thing for old hardware like I do, or used systems. And so basically, I saw this old computer, and it looked like a Dell workstation. And so it was sitting by a trash can. I thought, what in the world's going on with this system? So I went and I talked to the manager of the restaurant, and I said, what's the story with this system? And I said, is this trash? And he said, yeah, we're actually going to throw that in the trash. And I said, well, can I have it? And he said, yeah, you can have it. So I got this system, and when I left, I put it in the car, and I got home, and the thing was absolutely gnarly disgusting. It had some kind of drink that had been spilled on it, on the front and on the top. And it's actually, I don't know if you can see it on the video version here, but it's sitting over there on the floor behind me. Excuse me. And so I got it home, and I started to clean it to just get all the nasty crud off of it. It was some kind of drink or something. It looked like syrup had dried on it. So me and my son, he's almost 3. He helped me clean it, and then I just put it in my room here until I would have a chance to actually take a look at it on the weekend. So when I actually got to it, to actually open the system up and actually see what it was, and maybe start to do some repair on it and see what all was going on with it, I opened the thing up, and on the inside was just the nastiest, I don't know how to describe it. It was the grossest. It was like a new kind of dust. It was like balls of dust. And I guess because it was in the in a restaurant environment, they got dishwashers, so you got this steamy air, and then they're cooking food, so you got oils and butter and grease and all kinds of stuff. And I guess it makes this new kind of like hybrid dust, and it was the gnarliest thing I'd ever seen. There was probably about 2 liters worth of dust in this machine. So I eventually got that cleaned out, and miraculously, I guess maybe it was the greasy dust had preserved this machine. The interior it was just immaculate after I cleaned it, so it actually looked pretty good. So I thought, I'm going to take it in. It was missing a couple of things. It didn't have a dedicated graphics card, and it didn't have any storage. So I put a 128 gigabyte SSD in it, and I put a GT310, which the GT310 was like an OEM part that would ship out on systems. I think it's got like 16 CUDA cores and 1 gigabyte of DDR3. So it's not the most powerful card, but anything like 2008 and older, it runs with no problem. So it's not a terrible card. But I was pretty sure that this workstation was from around 2010 or so. It turns out it was like 2011. So what it was a Dell Optiplex 380 workstation. And so, yeah, anyway, I was able to rescue this computer. So it kind of made my day. But so when I brought it in the house after I'd got it all clean, and I tried to boot it up, I installed the graphics card, I installed the SSD, and I plugged it into a monitor. I went to turn it on, the thing would not turn on, and it was giving me a 3.4 error. So the Dell error code, that is a memory error. But I had checked all the connections. The memory didn't have if you got bad memory, it's possibly burned. Anyway, I didn't think it was the RAM. So I thought, what, I'm not even getting a numlock on my keyboard. So I thought this has got to be a BIOS issue. So I popped the CMOS out, popped the battery back in, and it booted right up. So the first thing I did was I installed, I've been curious about taking a look, or just kind of living in for a while, Fedora 32-bit. Fedora 30, and yes, they're no longer going to be supporting 32-bit as of the Fedora 31 release. So, and I think they're supporting the current 32-bit maybe till 2022. I think I can't remember exactly, but either way. So I mean, and as far as that goes, Fedora dropping 32-bit, I don't think it's a really big deal. They're going to be supporting the 32-bit libraries, of course, but really, I mean, resources. You got to put your resources where they're needed, and in Fedora, it's really not in 32-bit anymore these days. So I don't think it's a really big deal. Plus, there's plenty of Linux distributions that do support 32-bit, and I actually use 32-bit on some of my systems. So, anywho, what was I talking about? I've lost track of what I was thinking about. Oh yes, the Optiplex. So the system specs on it. It's a Core 2 Duo. It's got 2 cores. I think they're at 2.93 gigahertz each. It is an LGA 775. And it's not a terrible system. And paired with the GT310, it's just fine. And it's got 4 gigabytes of RAM, and it's a dual channel, so it's two gigabyte sticks. And what else? I don't know. It's very, very exciting, though. I get excited about this kind of stuff. So yes, I rescued a system, and I installed Fedora on it, and I'm thinking, I'll make this my sheep shaver machine so that I can kind of test old Mac ports and just see how I can get those running in sheep shaver, because that's something I find interesting, and just to try different stuff. As far as like getting things to run that are old, and Mac ports are just kind of obscure, and I thought, that's going to be cool. I'll make it the sheep shaver machine. So basically, the issue was that apparently sheep shaver is only available on Fedora as a 64-bit package, so I wasn't able to install it. So that bummed me out. And then I updated the Fedora install, and it took me to this screen that said, when I restarted the machine, it said, don't turn off your computer, I'm installing updates. And I'm like, did I grab the Windows Experience ISO or something? What is this? So I immediately turned the machine off and installed Ubuntu 18.04, because I'm like, I can't deal with that. I don't know what that's about. I'm not gonna, I don't want a Windows Experience on this machine. So I don't know if that's standard or if I grabbed a weird ISO. But anyhow, yeah, I ended up installing an Ubuntu distribution on it, and downloaded some Urban Terror, and played that. And the GPU was pegged at, or the game was pegged at 125. That's the max you can get, 125 frames per second. So it's cool. It's a working machine. So yeah, I'm gonna put the sheep shaver on there, and I guess I'm gonna use it for that. I don't know, unless somebody needs a computer or something that I know, and I'll just maybe pass it along to them. But anywho, that's really all I wanted to talk about today. I was excited about that, and thought I'd make episode 11 about saving a computer, and just my experience with that. So anywho, thank you so much for listening, and for watching. And this episode, you can find it over on LibreQuest.org, of course on YouTube. And I'm not sure how this live streaming thing's going to work out, but I thought I'd give it a try tonight. So anywho, that's my first try at live streaming on the YouTube. And if you enjoyed the podcast, you can send me some feedback. Let me know. You can join over on LibreQuest.org on the forum. And you can also download the podcast from archive.org. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to be going over making a power switch, custom power switch for your computer build. That's something that I like to do. So I wanted to do an episode about that. And I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for listening.